The Cahir famine orphans. On the Irish Famine Memorial at Hyde Park Barracks in Sydney, you can read among 400 names that of a Katherine Healey. Life started for Katherine in Cahir in 1830. Her parents were Nicholas Healey and Catherine Ryan, and it seems they were both dead by the time Katherine was 18, and she was then in the Cahir workhouse. She signed up to emigrate on a ship called the William and Mary in 1848. Here was a young lady whose life was dramatically and traumatically changed as she was caught up in the Great Irish Famine. She witnessed the horror of the Great Famine firsthand, watching family members and friends die, her entire life in upheaval. She experienced hunger, loss of home, life in the Cahir workhouse, and possibly in the auxiliary house at Tinkerry Cahir, which was designed as a children's workhouse. She then undertook that dangerous journey to a distant country that took over 2 months to reach by sea. Perhaps Katherine was one of the lucky ones who escaped Ireland. The emigration scheme that brought Katherine Healey to Australia was called the Earl Grey Scheme. In 1848, the workers' houses of Ireland were encouraged by the Poor Law Commissioners to seek young female orphans who would agree to emigrate. The goal of the scheme was twofold: to rescue the girls from the workhouse, thereby reducing the numbers in those institutions, and because of the shortage of women in Australia, to redress the imbalance in the population. 4,000 Irish orphan girls emigrated under the scheme between 1848 and 1850. Having arrived in Sydney in November 1849, Katherine Healey from Cahir spent her first Australian Christmas in Hyde Park Barracks Depot, and it's fitting that her name is carved in the Irish Famine Memorial, which is at that place. She is a direct link between Cahir and Australia via the Irish Famine Orphan Emigration Scheme. The records on the irishfaminememorial.org website show that she was a nursemaid, and after arriving in Sydney, she was employed by G.J. Armitage in Sydney at £8 per year. She married a John Joseph Verco, who was described as a Cornish free settler in 1853. They had 7 children, and she went on to live to the age of 70 and died in 1905. Katherine is one of 13 young women from Cahir who immigrated under that scheme. Another young orphan girl of whom we have information is a Katherine Doodie, daughter of Michael Doodie and Bridget Walsh. Katherine was baptised in Cahir in November 1833, and by the time she was 15, both parents were dead and were deceased, and she emigrated in 1848. She went out on the same ship, the William and Mary, and like the other 12 Cahir orphans who travelled with her, she was a Catholic. Katherine was listed as a nursemaid and was able to read and write. Being a nursemaid meant she looked after the younger children in the workhouse, a role for which the girls were trained. In Australia, she was employed by a family named Dún at orphan wages. For neglect of duty, her wages were withheld for a time until she was well behaved. But she was paid in 1850. This young Doodie girl was a daughter of Michael Doodie, who in April 1848 reported to the Board of Guardians on the awful conditions in the Cahir workhouse. He told them that he sometimes sat up with his children all night in the workhouse hospital to be sure they were safe and looked after properly. He reported that he had seen 6 to 12 children dead daily during March of that year. This number is not borne out by the records. It was recorded in Katherine's immigration record in 1849 that both parents were dead. Research on Ancestry.com shows that Katherine went on to get married twice and had 13 children, and she died in 1915 in Armidale in New South Wales. The names of the other 11 Cahir orphan girls who emigrated on the William and Mary are Catherine Kennedy, aged 18, Bridget Halloran, aged 17, Bridget Luddy, 18, Margaret Lynch, 17, Bridget Lynch, 19, Judith Julie McGrath, aged 15, Mary Mulcahy, 16, Bridget Scanlon, 16, Joanna Scanlon, 18, Judith Julie White, 16, Catherine Carney, 18. It is our privilege to record their names here in Cahir.